Yeah.
Much is it donation? Use it?
No, the gentleman that owns it, right? If I remember right,
Who owns
he ended up and something happened where they were gonna sell it. He said, no, I'll buy it.
Right, but it's kind of a council that uses it, you know, several different, two people from our church are on the board and a few others, so they kind of,
But does it
Do
cost something to rent it?
no, no cost at all donations and free will.
Yeah, where the boxes and all that.
Mhm.
babies.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry, Jack,
So we'll see if anybody comes on, but, no, too worried about that.
John would hold stuff here.
Who?
John. He would hold certain gallons here. Sorry, John, remember?
Which John?
Kathy,
Oh, did he?
Listen, no,
listen,
Yeah,
but he would hold certain things here.
yeah.
There's like a reflection in the camera, but you guys can see it okay, right? Everybody can see it all right? Okay, okay. It's not all that important to see, it just kind of gives you kind of a flow of what's going on, so. All right, let's start. I'm gonna open up in prayer. Father, thank you for tonight. Thank you for bringing us here and taking care of us and watching over us this last week. And Lord, we could come together to study your word, and we just ask that you give us insight and revelation, on revelation, of course, and just thank you that we're just able to explore all of this and just look at it. In Jesus' name, amen. First thing I wanted to do is, I don't know if you guys are aware of it. Most everybody uses a phone, right?
use what?
Phone,
Oh, yeah.
a phone, sorry. There is a website that is called Bible Hub. Yeah, .com, and I'm going to see if I can. No, I can't. Okay, it is just like it sounds. I might be able to plug it in a little bit later, or here I go. Maybe I can see if the share will work real quick. Yeah. No, it's not going to share up there. I don't
Say
think.
Bible Hub.
Bible Hub, yeah. Yep, there it is. Okay, so what it is it has Bible on your course right at your fingertips. It's got almost every version of the Bible all the way across: NIV, LNT, ESV, King James, New King James, the Berean Study Bible, all the way down to, I think, Young's Literal Translation, which is probably one of the worst translations ever written, and why they put it up, I don't know.
Which one?
Young's Literal, YLT. What Young's did was he translated. Well, the story is told sometimes as if it was in the past, right? Like the Gospels and things.
Right.
So he tried to change the verbs to make it sound like it's happening right now as we read it. And he tried to do that by himself, and
Yeah.
it literal in some points, but then yeah, not the best. But so they've got every version. You can go to a parallel tab where you can look at all the versions of one verse, all the way down. It has sermons, audios, visuals, and things like this. But there's also commentaries, and these are the older ones from 1890s on up that are pretty much standard. They're public domain, so anybody can look at them. They show you the different ways that people have interpreted the scriptures, how they view it, over the years. One of the big things that we know is that what changed everything was that in 1954, between 1945 and 54, the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. I think we talked about that last time, didn't we? So how that added everything and it changed everything. And so that's been slowly being incorporated into anything else. I got a website, it's called Pastor Search, where pastors who are looking for churches and churches who are looking for pastors, they connect together, right? And they put in there, I'm a King James Version person only, and there's a lot of churches that King James are, that's all they look at. And he started to, one person says, well, this is why we're King, they asked, why is it King James only? And he says, well, this is the reason. And he started going down through a list. And one of the things he brought up a couple of times is like 1 John 3, and there are three that bear witness in heaven, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Propitiation, another verse, in his blood. There's little phrases like that at the end of Mark, in fact, the last chapter of Mark. When you go to the oldest known scrolls now from the Dead Sea, those verses, those passages are not, they were added by scribes and things later on. And so the newer versions take those little passages out. And like the NIV,
Right.
and the NLT, they take those things out because they're not nearly as ones. And the King James people, that is so terrible. They're taking things out of the Bible, but they were never there to begin with. But not any of those little comments or anything takes anything away from the scriptures or contradicts. So use it if you want to. Don't use it if you don't want to, but just make note that that wasn't in some of your, it's not a big deal. And the other great thing in there, of course, is what they got the interlinear, which is each verse is broken down, whether it's in the Greek or the Hebrew, it's there. Each word is broken down, and you can look at what those verses are, and they're cross-connected with Strong's Concordance. So when you click it on there, it'll bring up what the word is, how it's used, verb, noun, adverb, whatever it might be. It tells you that. It tells you about the parsing. I don't know if you're familiar with Greek, but it's like endings of our words. Fast, faster, the fastest, ERS. Well, Greek does the same thing, according to how many people it's referring to. Plural, more than one versus one. It'll tell you if it's an action that was completed in the past and completed and done with in the past, or is it an action that completed but still has an ongoing idea that it's still, in other words, like Jesus has been raised. Well, he is raised as past tense, but has been raised sounds like, oh, he did it just, no. He was raised, he still is raised, and he will always be raised. So they deal with a little bit more subtle nuance. And then it'll tell you in that interlinear all the verses where that word is used. You can find every verse and through there. And those are great study tools. And then it puts in there Thayer's lexicon so that you can see that the word is used differently according to the scripture. One of the most common words like mellow, which means about to. Okay, John was about to get into the boat. Okay, mellow. All right, real easy. But when they put mellow with necessitate, another Greek word, it's a future word. It means to exist, to happen. Well, that mellow doesn't no longer means it's about to happen right away. I'm about to go take out the trash. No, it changes to say meaning that, no, if this is sure to happen. So words had the subtle change in how they were used. One of those words also is called parousia, the second coming of Christ. Parousia was used in the Old Testament and in the Greek. Well, the Hebrew Bible was translated when the Greek language came out. It was translated into Greek, the Septuagint. And so a lot of the passages that you find from Paul when he's quoting Old Testament, it's almost always from the Septuagint, which is a little slightly different. Some passages are not in there that you'll find in your Hebrew Bible. wording and things differently. And it gives a subtle nuance, kind of, but you'll see Paul, he's quoting usually from the Greek Septuagint. And one of those words is parousia. It is never used in the Old Testament Septuagint except for one time in the book of Maccabees, or twice in Maccabees, where it talks about God came on a cloud. This army came on the behalf of God. So the Babylonian army came on the behalf of God to carry out the judgment. Or the Maccabees, when they came and won back, it was, they were coming on the behalf of God. It was a miracle that they won the war against Antiochus Epiphanes and things like this. It was used that way. So the coming of an army was called the parousia. And then it's used only in Matthew. It's not used in any of the gospel, and it's still used in that Old Testament way. The act of the coming God. So it's used only 3 times, and that was in the Olivet when it talks about the coming of Christ in judgment, not himself. And then Paul, in his letters, uses it kind of differently. He uses it for like Stephanos, or one of the guys, they've been absent, now they're present. So he would use that word. He also uses it as for the coming of the lawless one in 2 Thessalonians 3, the coming of the lawless one. That word parousia. He's been absent, but here he is. He's present. You're going to see him. And then, so Paul uses that all the way through, specifically when he talks about Christ or when he talks about a person who is absent, now he's going to be present. And but you'll see people that will argue that because the Olivet uses that word, therefore he's talking about the second coming. Well, that's how. No, it's also used about Stephanos. And that's Stephanos. He's not the coming of Jesus, is he? So those are the issues I was talking about when we translate and interpret the scriptures. How do we know it correctly? Well, someone tells you parousia only means the second coming. No, it really doesn't. And then, so of course, Thayer's lexicon will show you the different ways that word is used, why it's used differently. That word mellow, almost all the time, it's an about to. There's one passage where it says, "Why are you delayed?" Delayed. Jesus is about to come delayed. Well, it was only used in the one passage where the Ethiopian eunuch and Andrew. Am I saying is it Andrew or is it Phil? Phil. When he said to him, "Why would you delay getting baptized? Here's some water. Why would you delay getting?" Instead of saying about to get, why would you delay it? And it's translated as delay instead of about to. And so there's different ways. But the Thayer's actually points that out. So when you do word studies on something and you come across something that's kind of interesting, this is a good source. And then so that's and then the Greek thing, it'll take and break what the English word and word, or those kind of things. So it breaks all that down. And then the interesting part about that, let's put it this way, or a translation. There's one from 2005, the Greek Orthodox version that they use, Tischendorf 8th edition. Then you have this Textus Receptus from 1894. And the Textus Receptus Greek was the one that the King James used, not some of the others. So it shows you all the variations of words that were either or spelled different or said a little bit differently than written differently. So you've got this Greek manuscript, they're written about the same time, but this person will say it this way, a little bit slightly different than this way. It might be the same word, but it's just different ending on it. So those variations. And sometimes that happened because of the way the scribes were writing and putting things in there. So I just wanted to help as a tool when you're studying the Bible, just to be able to go through there and look at that. All right, the 7 letters. Now this is where we're gonna have some. Let me see if this is gonna help. There we go. Okay, so we got a picture here of the 7 churches, all in that area. How many? The church started where? In Jerusalem, correct? Paul did the persecution, people scattered. Do you know where the church then, the church council, for instance, that it talks about in Acts, where that happened at? Do you know that the church changed places? Became Antioch, no longer Jerusalem. Antioch became the main center for the church and everything else. Everything done from there, and that's where they met. That's where was the head of the council there. And of course, everybody says James. Oh, well, that's James and John. No, this is James, the brother of Jesus. But they don't tell you those kind of things. You follow what I'm getting at? So those are things that you got to study in that. And of course, it was James that was killed first in the persecution. Let me see if I should blow this up so I can see it myself here a little bit. Those are the chapters that about the angels, the seven churches. So it's Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergama, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. And Philadelphia is the most famous one, of course, because it's American. And you know that's called the city of brotherly love, because philo is love, and then Delphia, brotherly. Brotherly love. So those are the seven. All right. Now, discussion time. Let me talk about this one. The seven letters. We all know that they talked about positive things and then negative things. And then it's understood everything all across the board for all these years. Now, put it back in that time, and we say, okay, this would be 96, 98 AD when it was written. It was written to those churches. And these are all warnings to those churches. Can we also say that, I mean, if these are going to be about the last days and events and stuff, shouldn't it be warning to our churches today? So if I was to ask you guys, what do you see as some in this thing that we look through here before we go into a whole lot of it? What do you think are major failings of the church God's going to have to judge? God says judgment always starts at the house. So what are you guys saying right now? What do you think? Judgment of the churches.
Judgment of churches.
Yeah. Do you think it's going on now? Do you see?
Some are pretty liberal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you said don't want you catch you sleeping.
Yeah. Immediately, Mr. I'm not one for attacking churches, so I'm not trying to do that, but I want to deal with what the church teaches. And the different things. Right now, we talked about there's a lot of people that are starting to teach universalism, where everybody's going to be saved, that there is no hell. Period. You don't get eternal punishment. You go in there, you do your time, and you get out. And if I was to say something like that, what would be your first response that somebody comes up to you and says, well, that's what hell's for, is for you to pay for your sins, and once you pay for them, then you get out and get to go to heaven. My first response is, wait a minute. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, life. No man gets in heaven with me. So if you don't believe him, you die in unbelief. Everybody believes in God now. You're dead, you're seeing it, you're in that place, so everybody's going to, I'm sorry, it's too late.
Too late.
Some people may say it, but do they actually believe it?
What about?
I believe in God, but
Right.
they may not.
Right.
The devil believes in God. The demons believe in God.
Right. Okay. So there's a lot of bad doctrines out there, and a lot of things that are being by good men. That's, good men are teaching those things. But if you believe in hell or you don't, is that really going to send you to hell? Probably not, right? Because when you get up there, God's not going to go, okay, did you have perfect theology? Well, Lord, no, I can see I was wrong about this. I can see I was wrong about. He goes, okay, yeah, that's not what I'm judging you on. In Revelation 20 says, based on your works, what did you do? And that famous passage from Matthew is, depart from me, from the workers of iniquity, I never knew you. Those who obeyed, who fed the poor, did those kind of things. Then that he says, probably one of the most sore spots, because this is with within the Assemblies of God, it's the prosperity gospel, the name and the claim it.
The fear of God really was wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Believing God should fear his power.
But,
Not
and
be
we're,
fearful of it.
yeah, we're talking about men that are preaching up there. God gave me 7 airplanes. I got a $30 million mansion. I don't have to pay any taxes because it all belongs to the church. I mean, what's your first reaction on something like that?
Get mad.
Yeah, because I was going to say, answer that one. Obviously, there's something wrong with that. I mean, just, I don't see Jesus wasn't, but they have all these excuses of why it's okay, why Jesus blessed them with 7 airplanes, or whatever it might be. And in myself, I have a problem with it. Maybe other people don't. That's one thing. When it comes to the Catholic Church, they have a lot of the same beliefs. They're very orthodox in their those things that they believe in, the core issues, like we do. But they believe in extra revelation that was given to them by God through the church, through the Pope. And so when the Pope speaks ex cathedra, then this is the truth. And believe it or not, they talk about purgatory. But that is not a dogma. It's something that you should believe in. They want you to believe in, but they're not going to say if you don't believe in it, it's okay. Because to me, the idea, dogma is you have to believe this no matter what. One of those dogmas that they have is that we as Protestants, if you know that the Catholic Church is the church and you don't join it, therefore you're not Christian, you're not saved. You can pretend all you want to, but you're going to be one of those people that stand up there, Lord, Lord, good night. And everything within you goes, no, that's all right. But the idea of purgatory is, of course, is that when you die, whatever sins that Jesus didn't cover, you have to pay for yourself. And my big question was always, well, purgatory is where you're saying I'm going there and I could be there forever and everybody lights candles, pray for me, I can get out quicker and all of that. But what is the great white throne judgment for? I thought that's where I get judged for all my deeds and works at the end of time. So why should I have to go to purgatory, and then I'm going to go to the great white throne judgment at the end of it? So it always confused me.
I have friends that are Catholics.
Right, yeah.
Some say, well, when I die, you put me out of purgatory. Well, I don't believe in purgatory
Exactly.
first place, but they only give communion to the Catholics. Most of them only give communion to other Catholics.
Yeah. And the other thing about them is all of their, what do you call those things they have to do? Well, yeah, it's all of those things that you have to do. Penance, you have
Sacraments?
all the sacraments. That's the word I was looking for. You have to do all these sacraments and on a daily basis and everything else, because that's where grace is imparted to you when you do the sacraments. So if you do sin, a major sin, of course, you're no longer under grace.
Any of you guys former Catholics? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, about 10 years ago when I found out it was a cult, it was tough.
Yeah, it's hard
If
to,
you raise that way different,
get people to
Mother
see
says you're
that
not
too.
guilty of what she does, you true.
Catholicism.
But you have to have will in your heart still.
Catholicism.
Yeah.
If you don't know any better.
Well, I've been listening a lot. The Catholic Radio.
Yeah.
They have several shows, and one of them is they do interviews of Protestant pastors and people who are now Catholic. And they go through and they talk about how their journey back to the Catholic faith and back to the right church. And, you know, and then some of the other doctrines and then other things, they got great things. You know, they really do. Like when they argue about the Virgin Mary, you know, what, you mean she didn't have kids? No, those are all cousins. That word there can be used cousins or kids. So why are you choosing to have it interpreted as cousins instead of their children? You know, James, the brother of Jesus. Well, that's his cousin. Why? Well, because Mary
Has to be a virgin.
has to be a virgin.
So,
So that interpretation is not coming from the scripture, it's coming from a presupposition where we dictate we have to read it this way because we believe this is true, therefore it has to be true with this. But the thing is has that been proven true? Probably not. But according to the Catholic faith, the Pope says that, then that's what we're believing. So the biggest two things, though, in the commendations and the failures, cannot bear with those who are evil, but have tested those who have called themselves apostles and are not found to, and not they are. Okay, let me say this: themselves are apostles and are not, and found them to be false. Right now, in our modern day, who has ever heard of the New Apostolic Reformation? Have you heard of that before? It is the idea that God is restoring these last days apostles, prophets, and so you go applying, and you see things and you just kind of laugh. You can't help but laugh. This pastor of the church declares that his wife is a prophetess. So now she prophesies that my husband is an apostle.
right.
So now he goes by the name of apostle, and she's a prophetess. And you look at this verse right there. But the New Apostolic Reformation is the idea after the third wave, after there was that revivals in the 90s, they called it, came out of Canada, the third wave of all these miracles and things that were happening. A group of people got together and they believed that God is restoring the apostles to the church. And so they started this, and they call themselves now apostles, and they're trying to kind of be bossy over the church, you know, kind of that kind of a thing. And I look at this and I go, who call themselves apostles but are not? Well, church, you're not in line because there's new apostles now, and we're supposed to be listening to them. If you're not, you're in danger of judgment. Prophet, go speak to the church and judge them. That's kind of where it's kind of gone on, and it's kind of a little bit, okay, that's too much. That I have this against you, that you have abandoned the love you had first. There was another condemnation. When you think about a church that has lost their love, I'm saying, I used to be part of a bowling league, and it was with this one church. And I would stand around there, and you would listen to the pastor tell some of the most raunchiest jokes and thought it was funny. They're chugging on their beer, you know, 5 or 6 of them, you know, they're a little bit, but they're bowling and, you know, they're saved. Yeah.
You're on the popes and like the fathers, whatever they call them at church.
The priests, yeah. This was with the Lutheran Church. And it's divided up into at least 6 or 7 different branches, you know, different things. But their doctrine tells them, oh, you're here at church? Oh, your parents were Lutheran? Therefore, you're probably saved. So we're going to confirm you. Well, what about repentance? What about... So this town is full, so you can't run into them. And I've had kids over there, and I've talked to them, and I said, did you ever accept Christ in your heart? I mean, did you ever have that kind of... No, I was just confirmed. But because they're just declaring you're saved. Well, how do you know I am? Huh?
I ask Kat a tough time. you say, yeah, I was baptized, I'm saved, I'm going to heaven because I was baptized.
Right. Catholic Church believes that you have to be baptized in order to be saved, and there's another church, Protestant church, that believes the same
Or I
thing
go
too.
to confession,
Huh?
or I go to confession. That's the one that always got to me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Churches of Christ, they believe you have to be baptized in order to be saved. And there's examples in scriptures where people got filled with the Spirit and then they were baptized. Well, how can you be filled with the Spirit without being saved? Well, because there is, even in Pentecostal back then, there was when you were regenerated. That's when you got born again. And so that is kind of carried through in some people's thinking that baptism is what saved you because that's when regeneration. Well, so what happens if I accepted Christ and 4 days later I'm going to get baptized, but I died? They will look at you with a straight face and say, you will go to hell because you were not baptized. The Catholic Church, at least, right? I believe so. Will sit there and say, well, God, you were going to do it, so dispensation, and you're
They
okay.
change whatever will fit the narrative,
Yeah,
it seems.
yeah.
Because there was a time when they were, well, Lincoln died. It was
Jesus
very
was baptized,
strict.
whether he's saved or not.
Not because he was baptized, but the example, right, of making disciples. But
Yeah, but they change with the wind, it seems like. I mean, you
Yeah.
listen to this Pope now.
right,
He's a black pope.
Anything goes.
Okay, the next one, behold, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison, that you may be tested for 10 days. You will have tribulation, be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. This was a temporary kind of thing. Didn't have anything pointed at them saying you're terribly wrong. You hold fast my name, you did not deny me, but I have a few things against you. You have some who hold the teachings of Balaam. So also you have some who hold the teachings of the Nicolaitans. Balaam, do you remember that story? What was it that he did? He was asked
To curse Israel.
but he was paid
Yeah.
to speak curses against. And so my first response is, and this is what blew me away. I mean, and it just cuts inside of me. I know I don't have to go around pointing fingers at him, but T.D. Jakes, when he goes to speak at a big conference, he charges nothing less than $250,000 to speak. I bristle at that. I just think, but then of course now you see the downfall. I'll go into some of the other judgments in a minute. Okay, I know your works. You have the reputation of being alive, but you are dead. Wake up and strengthen what remains in you is about to die, for I've not found your works complete in the sight of God. So here's church just doing church. But just doing church instead of having the life of the church. Because you have kept my word about being patient and endurance, I will keep you the hour of trial that is going to come upon the whole world, and to try those who dwell on the earth. Other good combinations. I know your works. You're neither cold nor hot.
What church was that?
I didn't listen down there.
Oh, okay.
I'm just all I did was put in kind of just the kind of things because I wanted to kind of relate here to us. Because the next thing is where would you fit in there with churches that are starting to allow homosexuals as pastors?
I was gonna bring that subject up earlier, but I didn't know how.
Yeah, I know. Kind of touchy in a group. I'm like, I'm gonna
Very
say that.
different
but,
than
yeah.
a few years back when a woman could be a pastor.
I know, and you know that's
Now
still
it's like,
that. How many of you guys you've heard of Beth Moore?
Mhm.
She's a great teacher, and she was teaching women, and men started coming, and people like her, and they asking her to come to my church and teach me. But the Baptist convention, thou shalt not have a woman pastor teaching over you, and they tore her down so badly that she's not doing anything anymore. But if you,
Moore?
huh?
Have you ever heard Beth Moore?
Oh yeah. I've heard some things. I haven't heard
I
everything.
was gonna say, if you ever listen to her, she's.
There's some things, yeah, there are some
Pretty.
things that she's bought into that come from the name and claim it. There's things that trickle through all of that, but that, yeah,
How about Joyce Myers?
yeah. we can go on names and everything else. Joyce Myers, when it comes to her teaching about women and things like that, the things that I've heard, she's always been.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything really true. A new one that's out there right now is Jackie Hill. Look her up. She is a former black lesbian who got saved. She's married now. She's preached, and she is telling it like it is to the church. She's calling people out and things. Judgment specific to the church. We had some years ago, you had that one pastor in Colorado who was living a gay lifestyle outside of the church, not telling anybody. Haggard, yeah. You had that going on. You've had,
A sugar guy,
yeah.
in the Bible it says about homosexuals.
Mhm.
Says it had me arrested as a hater.
Yeah. Okay, so a lot of them have been busted. T.D. Jakes has gotten busted because if you're associated with certain people right now, that's not good. You've had two in Texas. Now, Robert Morris is an independent. He's actually associated with Lifegate indirectly. But here's a pastor who admitted I had an affair when I was young, 21, with a young lady. And that was his confession to his elders and everybody else. But what he didn't confess was I was molesting a 14-year-old girl to the time she was like 17. This wasn't a young lady. The minute that finds out, of course, now you've got a church of almost 10,000 people. And your head pastor he's there one day, the next minute he's gone. He is gone. He's out of ministry, the whole thing, and it blows up because. And so my question is how much should pastors confess about their past in such a way? We're willing to forgive divorce. We're willing to forgive.
Are we talking about Steve Lawson?
No, Robert Morris.
Oh, Robert Morris.
Yeah, Steve was the other one though, didn't he? Yeah.
You know,
Well,
Charles
Steve
Stanley
Lawson
was
was
the
on
most
recently.
Yeah, and there was one of the other big pastors, his wife just, you hear him on the radio all the time, but his wife,
But he gives an extra back.
yeah, his wife divorced him too.
Are you talking about Baker?
Dr.
Jim Baker.
Jim Baker?
No, that was a long time ago. Yeah, that was a long time. I'm talking about more recently. Dr. So I can't remember. I hate names. Anyway, but he was one of them. Maybe it's a good thing I don't mention names. But yeah,
Should
his
they be reinstated as pastors, that's a big
yeah,
topic now.
yeah. And then it was
Was that Dr. Jeremiah?
no. Then there's the other one that was supposed to be the prophet, and he talks to angels, and angels talk to him, and da 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 da. And so he fools around, divorces his wife, remarries his girlfriend. They get married, and then he has this big coming out confession: I was wrong, da 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 da. But it would be wrong for me to divorce my girlfriend and go back with my wife. Therefore, I've apologized and made it up to my wife, and now God has blessed my ministry because I've apologized and done it. And then you find out there was a whole lot more other sexual things that were going on. He's taken down. Benny Hinn had an affair with Paula White and divorced, and now they're remarried.
Those two, though, those don't really count. I mean, who's surprised about that?
Right.
I think the higher standard, some pastor, or the higher standard.
Yeah, there's supposed to be a higher standard and everything else. So I'm sitting there, what I'm looking at is that church is coming under judgment right now. I think it is coming under. God is going, I can't, this stuff that's being hidden and hiding from people, their flaws are coming out. And a lot of people are being chosen to be pastors because they're great speakers. They have this magnetic personality. charisma and everything else, but their characters, like they've never been through the fire of life, and you know, and they're.
We've been watching two, one of Pastor Jack Hibbs,
Mhm.
but who's the other one?
All right. And then.
Gary Hammond.
Gary Hammond.
Henry.
You know, Gary Hammond is pretty straight.
Those guys are the real deal, but so Steve Lawson was too.
Mm.
But you gotta remember, they're a big target to the enemy.
Yeah, yeah.
So the enemy was bombarding them all the time.
Yeah.
One of them's gonna fall.
Years ago, there
It's
was.
just human nature, somebody's
I was with the Foursquare, and this big guy comes on. Church starts growing. He's got this prophetic ministry, and it just takes off like crazy and everything else. And it turns out that my wife works at the daycare where his kids go to. Okay, that's fine. So hey, we got this little, you know, and I met him. We did a couple church conference. He always came in with his bodyguards and things like this, because he's got a big church now. And what happened was one day the mother comes in and pulls the kids out and said, "We're moving to Hawaii." Your husband, the pastor of a church of 5,000 people. You're going to Hawaii. He's staying here. What's wrong? So 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from a friend of one of the members of his church, and she talked to me because pastor of the church, and that kind of connection. And he tells me, yeah, he's basically what he has done is divorced his wife. He's married his girlfriend, and she's moved to Hawaii, and he's going to pay child support and everything else. And I go, part of our denomination, do they know? So I call up my denomination, our bosses. Hey, Steve, how you doing? Well, this is public record, so I don't think I'm violating scripture. It says bring 2 or 3 witnesses and all that, you know. But are you aware that so-and-so has divorced his wife and is remarried? Because his counsel didn't know, we're not aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
So they call him up, and he comes in with his lawyers and with his bodyguard, and he says, and this is the threat: you will not say anything publicly, or I will sue you from here to next Tuesday. I will tie you up so much in litigation. I'm withdrawing my name from the thing. I will not give an account to you of why I did what I did or what happened. It's none of your business. I will leave this. I will go take my church over here with all my people and everything else, and you can go on your merry way. But if you tell anybody, I will sue you from here. They said, fine, go. We're not going to say a word. It took about 4 years for the end, finally found out, but he's still on the TV.
Yeah.
He's still doing it.
Mm.
He's still doing it. But the church then, what I'm bringing up is we're not holding ourselves accountable.
But see, those are the wolves in sheep's clothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are, I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
They have
those are
great
the
gifts.
hens and
Mhm.
songs, and some of them are a little more subtle,
Mhm.
but they're still.
So I bring all that up though, because the judgment, that's what this was all about. The Nicolaitans, false teachings, the sin of Balaam for money. We can see all those things present within our church. And I think that's going to be a big part of things, of what's going to happen with the church. Because right now we see a decline of pastors, especially what happened along the Catholic Church. You know, a lot of decline of people, they're leaving, all that. That sets it up for the whole next yard. So you've got, where are you? Oh, there we go. The 7 Horsemen. I looked and behold, a white horse, a rider on a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he came out to conquer and to conquer. So what you have a picture of course, is in 4 and 5, is Jesus is in heaven. He's going to open up the scroll. There's 7 seals, 7 judgments that are going to be poured out at the last time. And they start off with, of course, with the horse, the white horse and the red and all that. The white horse, your imagery, and you guys can put input what you think, because I would be interested in how you solve it. But I see that the rider on a bow and a crown was given to him, and he came out conquering and to conquer. So here's a world leader. Nepal, you better not do that, or I just might take it. Or Iran, that's kind of quick, you know. I've got
I just read recently that bow is not a bow and arrow.
But
It's like a ribbon. It's like ties people. I don't know exactly, but a lot of theologians are saying that it's not a bow.
a
It's not
rider
a bow
had a
and
bow.
arrow.
Okay, so
I'll bring some research when I get next time.
that's one of those things, there's different opinions. Why am I? Oh, there it goes. All right, I won't look at that, but that would be something for you to look at
Yeah.
on that Bible Hub. You look up that verse, look up that word bow, and because if it's talking about a ribbon, what you're tying up on a horse, all the other words in there, the weapons of war, how would a ribbon be a weapon of war? How would that prevent other nations and keep the peace? I don't follow that imagine.
Well,
But-
what they were getting at was as in agreements, peace treaties,
Oh,
stuff like that.
okay, all right.
It's not a weapon.
But the same concept is there, that he's the one who keeps the peace. He's been somebody there that has made the peace and kept the peace, and yeah, we hear all kinds of theories, so that's, yeah, okay, so he keeps the peace. There's someone there. And the second one, and he came out, another horse, bright and red, take peace from the earth. So and see, there's the key, the peace. He takes peace from the earth. The other one kept the peace, and now this one is taking away the peace. Would slay one another, and he was given a great sword, a sword to cut. Now, this is just people among people. My first thought goes, this is supposed to be about the last days, so we always have this natural tendency, how does that fit into within our culture right now? Because he's coming back, so this has to pertain to us. I'm not trying to read a newspaper here and say, oh, see, this is, but how do I look at that people start fighting one another? That's what I see that stuff. People are fighting each other and killing each other. Nations against nations and peoples and groups, and everybody's going at it right now. And pretty much we've got that going on now. The stuff that has gone on in Sudan with the Christians and the Muslims, it's just been terrible, everywhere. And now, of course, Israel against Hezbollah on that. And is there anything more frustrating and screaming than somebody says, pray for Palestine from the river to the sea? It's oh boy, yeah. Charlie Kirk.
But they're trying to get you to the people of Palestine, not the people of Hamas, the people that are the victims of Hamas is what they're trying to
Say, right.
pray for.
From the river to sea means wipe out Israel completely, though, and let them go. But yes, it was the Palestinians who put them in place. They voted in knowing what they were and what they're doing when you've got them putting the schools and hospitals. Because we just saw that the whole blowing up of Hezbollah was in those things. But you saw Israel go a week ago say, we're going after you next. Get out of the way. Warn you in every which way they can. So there's infighting. I don't really think that so much America is in the center of all this as much as the Middle East,
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be right, we see these wars and things are going. Behold a black horse, tried a pair of scales in his hand, and I heard what seemed to be a voice in the midst of the four living creatures saying, quart of wheat for denarius, 3 quarts of barley for the denarius, a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk, $20,
Yeah.
nationwide. Okay, that seems like what we're in right now.
Day's work for a loaf of bread.
Yeah, but
Oh,
is
is that right?
that really? I can't this right here, but I can't say no. It's not either. Building up towards that, I can't. opened the fourth seal, looked and a pale horse and surrounded with death, and Hades followed after him. What is going to happen if they all of a sudden Iran decides they're going to go after Israel? We have to defend Israel. We're going to be right there with it. Who's going to defend Iran? And you can see there's this
Well, Iran's not gonna go after Israel.
after.
By themselves.
No, yeah, they won't.
By themselves. They don't.
Even now, I'm seeing them, they're throwing the drones and the things and lobbing them over, but they're not really committing themselves to
They're pretty
outright.
intimidated by now by what they've seen. So they're not gonna do it. It's gonna have to be a coalition.
Yeah.
And that's what the Bible refers to.
10 kings,
Coalition between Russia, Turkey,
yeah.
and Iran.
Didn't, in that speech Biden gave to the UN, didn't he say he was thinking about sending troops over to Israel?
There's 40,000 troops there now.
But they're sending more.
Just send more. The fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who have been slain for the word of God and for the witness they have borne. Doesn't sound like it. Okay, so dispensationalists, they believe in the rapture. And that all Christians get out and everybody left behind, and because there's going to be a lot of people that get saved because they're going to recognize we're all gone. So they're going to get saved, and they're the ones that are going to go through this hell. That is preacher. But premillennials, most of the others, saying no, the church goes through that. And we'll look at that because it mentions and talks about it in chapter 13 and goes forward there. So the idea, well, let me move on a little more. The sixth seal, look, behold, there was a great earthquake. And it goes on to describe and everything else. Now, I don't know if you can see that real well because there's a lot in there. You see the four horsemen, 7 seals, and it finishes with dead Christians, number 5 on the fifth seal, and then ends with a great earthquake. Then you go to the last seal when it's opened up. Now the 7 trumpets come; they're part of the last seal. So you have this overlapping. So this is going to go on for whatever time. Now, is it 7 years? I don't know. I don't see strong enough evidence from like Daniel to put that into it. But what I do know is that the time of the beast, he's given authority for 3.5 years. The 2 witnesses, 11, 3.5 years. So there is that time frame with some of that. So,
But doesn't that 7 year be different than what we consider 7 years?
no, it'd probably be more. It very much 7 years because he's using specifically days.
So they can't use-
3,100.
Not using
65 days.
the calendar of the Babylonian calendar.
No, we're still working with the Greek
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I think John is being kind of specific here. I don't think he's being trying to use symbolism when it comes to that because 3.5 years, 3,100. Blessed is he who comes to there's a difference between the days. One is 10 days longer than the other. And he says, blessed are the ones who comes 10 days afterwards.
Mhm.
So I think it's 3.5 specific, and remember at the beginning of it says, and time is short. These things will happen quickly when they start to take place.
Mhm.
All of that. And so the 7 trumpets. Hell and fire mixed with blood, and these were thrown upon the earth. So this, I know. Have you guys heard about this Apophis?
What?
Apophis? They found an asteroid that's
Oh,
coming towards us.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
They're supposed to come close enough between satellites and Earth, but still far enough that they're not worried about it. They said maybe, I think the speculation is 2034, that it might come close enough that the Earth, come at us.
Good.
That's the closest one. Well, when you look up that word Apophis, I got the third rider on the springs of the water. This thing comes out of this meteor comes and hits the earth, springs in the water's all, and it, Right, it's called Wormwood, is the name of the star.
Yeah.
Okay, Wormwood in Greek is Apothenos. Apophis. Up in
APOFIS?
Apsinos. Apsinthos is the Greek word for wormwood.
2029
Is that what they?
well, no, another one is supposed to be.
Oh,
coming
okay. So okay, you can't help but look at those things and look at what's going on and go,
Yeah.
but I will not be the one standing up there and saying, we've got 7 days, you know, whatever. Or he's coming back in 1977. But you can see because of all of this is going on, this is where everybody is going, wow. And the original books, of course, Left Behind was based on dispensational teaching. Now, if you back to Kirk Cameron, who kind of did that,
Yeah.
he's no longer a dispensation. He doesn't believe any of that anymore. A lot of people are moving away from that. They're getting into something else.
You say in time the sons have power to scorch man.
Yeah, that would be, yes. A third of the sea became blood.
Yeah.
Living creatures and sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. Okay, because it hits the water. The third one there, rivers and the waters become bitter. People die, so the third of the light would be darkened. Locusts on the earth, and they were given the power like powers of scorpions. That's where people got that idea of a helicopter with you know, that kind of speculation that goes on in there. We just don't know until it happens. The next one, release of the 4 angels. They bound the great river Euphrates and prepared for the hour. And that's when the armies came in. You do know that the Euphrates dried up this last heat wave. It was down to a trickle. Yes. But again, people look at that and go, see, we're right there. It's so close. Yeah, right. And the last one is, the kingdom of the world has become the kingdom. Christ shall reign forever and ever. So that would be a prelude. Jesus comes at the end of all this that's going on. So there's the 7 trumpets. Then you have that, during this whole thing that we'll go through, is, of course, the kingdom of the beast, where he rules, and he's the one who persecutes the saints and kills them, sets up his kingdom. The false prophet worship the beast, and 666 and the numbers and all of those things. So the bowls of wrath are not directed at the Christians, at the world. It's directed at that beast and his kingdom. Harmful and painful sores come upon those people that bear the mark of the beast. The sea, and it becomes like the blood of the corpse, and every living thing that died. Everything living died in the seas. Every living thing. And to the rivers and the springs of waters, they became blood. See, this is kind of a repeat of the 7 trumpets also, because, okay, but this has got to be concerning towards that land, this kingdom. Everybody who followed the beast. Scorched people with a fierce heat, then it's plunged into darkness, and then the great river Euphrates and the water was dried up. So we hear those things that are repeated, right? Twice it's mentioned for the 7 trumpets and the 7 things. But then the end of it is a great earthquake. And I put in there prophecies. Zechariah 14:4 talks about a great earthquake. Revelation 6:12, a great earthquake that ends. End of Revelations, after the 2 witnesses are resurrected, there's an earthquake that happens that kills, and it says specifically 8,000 people dead in Jerusalem. Dead. Revelations 16 and 18. Yeah.
What'd you say, Zechariah
14:4. Yeah, that's one of those up there. But they all mention at the end of that. So the idea that I'm throwing out here is you've got the 7 seals that happen over this time period. More likely 7 years. Then you have 7 trumpet of judgments that come on the earth. Church gets in judgment. Then kind of an overview. Then more specifically, and then even more specific with the kingdom of the beast, the 7 bowls of wrath. They all end with the great earthquake. And so when you read through Revelations, it will follow that one line of thought of the seven seals. Then you got seven trumpets, and it's almost like it ends with that same great earthquake. And then the bowls of wrath, that ends with the earthquake. So it almost seems like, and that's to me, this is that's what all that stuff ends. The great earthquake is caused when Christ returns. It just, Zechariah 14 really explains, goes through all that he will be king over the earth, all the nations that come against Jerusalem, and da-da-da-da. Now, that last part, the earthquake goes into Revelations 19, but we're talking about what you hear, the Armageddon. I don't want to go too much longer here for you. Armageddon. Okay, you've heard of when Jesus was being, by Pilate, he's being tried and everything else. And he said, do you want me to release Barabbas or do you want me to release Jesus? And they said, Barabbas. Barabbas is not the name of the person. Have you ever heard that before?
Barabbas?
Yeah, that was not his name.
That's right.
Actually, Bar means son.
Bar, yeah.
Rabbis, rabbi.
Yeah.
He was the son of a rabbi. He was a thief and a murderer.
Hmm.
Son of man. People were known by who their parents were and things. Almost like a, he's supposed to be the son of a rabbi. Okay, Armageddon. Arm, again, is not actually a city or anything else. Arm is the word for hills. The hills of Megiddo. Megiddo is a city up in northern, but then it's also a valley next to hills about 100 miles away south of Jerusalem. And so the Battle of Armageddon takes place there. When you get into the details of Revelation 19, it says, and this is the thing that frustrates me, and we'll get into it more later on, but Revelation 19 says that Jesus returns, he's in Jerusalem, he's ruling, setting up his kingdom. Then it says, then all the armies of the earth gathered for battle against him. It doesn't make it all gathered, they're going to attack Jerusalem, and Jesus comes and defends it. It sounds like that Jesus is here, and then armies gather to attack him. And that's when it all takes, that thing takes place. How many of you guys have seen Lord of the Rings?
That's something.
Bits and pieces. There's a scene in there, J.R. took a lot of theology, got into it whether he wanted to or not, but one of the scenes in The Return of the King, the king is coming back. He goes through the halls of dead, and he brings all these dead people with him. And so you get this picture in the movie that he comes off this boat, and they see him, they don't see anybody else. And all of a sudden, the armies of the dead materialize, and they're with him, and they wipe out everybody. They win the whole victory because of that. And that's kind of like Revelation 19. His army comes with him and wipes out. And they use the same language, the birds of the vultures of the air will come and feast on the king's son. And then that sets up the millennium kingdom, goes into Revelations 20. So Armageddon is that. And then the second battle that takes place in Revelation 20 is when it comes against Jerusalem again. There's a second time after that, and we'll get into that. But because of all this, though, this is where all the speculation comes into. It's like, are we there or are we not? Are we there or not? With all the escalation that's going on, with the certainty of elections, and it just.
I really think.
Oh yeah,
it's
it
gonna
is.
work.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Psalm 83,
Huh?
Psalm 83.
Remind us. Okay.
Well, what I just read about, or just heard about Psalm 83 is, actually, it's kind of like the pre-war. It's the surrounding enemies. Israel takes care of those.
Yeah.
But you're right, that's interesting. I didn't know about. Jesus is already here. and then
Yeah,
Russia and
that's
China and Turkey.
About 1949.
48 when Jerusalem. So we know people use the Olivet and say, oh, Jesus is going to come back in our lifetime. Well, this generation. Well, that's got to be because the temple's got rebuilt. Israel has become a nation again, and the temple has rebuilt. And once it's rebuilt, that's when we know that Jesus is going to come back. But that's the Olivet. That didn't happen. That's not going to happen because Jerusalem was destroyed. In Revelation 19, Jesus gets the victory. So, and that's what people want to claim is that all of this Revelation from 1 to 18 is all about 70 AD, has nothing to do with our future. Christ is going to come. And
Now, I don't know if this is true, but
I
I
read-
heard the rebuilding of the temple was actually the rebuilding of the church.
No, they got an actual temple, they've got
They've
everything.
got everything.
They have all the utensils, they've got all the
People
plans,
say,
they're ready to
God's over
build.
here,
Everything's laid out.
God's over there, don't you look, you come back.
so that's the Olivet. Yeah.
What about
They
the,
said if they were
red
given the green
peppers.
light, they could have it built in less than a year.
But the
and
problem
red
is-
heifers, they're part of this
Yeah.
rebuilding?
Red heifers are part of it, because they have to have the ashes of the red heifer.
They're running out of time because you gotta sacrifice those within a certain amount of time.
Oh, but I also heard though,
I
if
was
they
in-
keep the same bloodline.
Oh, look,
they'll
I
be
got a phone
okay.
call from Donald J. Trump.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that must.
That's my first.
You know where those, it's just a side note.
Right.
You know where those cats came from?
Where?
Texas.
If only Christians
Oh,
get-
yeah.
If only Christians get raptured, what about the
They
144,000?
paid an amazing amount.
12,000 each, right?
Yep. But is this people forcing it to happen? Or, I mean, in other words, there's a lot of Christian dispensationalists who will be cheering it on because, yeah, that's what's going to happen. The temple's going to be rebuilt. It's going to be destroyed. But when I read through it, Jerusalem is never destroyed again. In fact, Zechariah 14 and 12, which are second coming promises, it says, and Jerusalem will be protected on that day. On that day, God will give salvation to the tents of Judah and Israel first, and all that. And then later on in Revelations 19, tell me I'm crazy, but it says when Jesus returns, he throws the beast and the false prophet alive into the lake of fire.
Yeah, they can fire.
So that word alive, while they're living, is what it actually literally means. While they are living, they're going to be thrown in their life. Well, then that means peace can't be in the past; it has to be in the future. That's how. But people say peace was Nero.
That's what the Catholic Church.
Yeah,
Oh, that's the-
yeah.
Most people in church say, we'll be raptured, you know.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think that's the easy way out. I think God wants to necessarily take the easy way out.
Right.
And also, not coming back until certain Christians are martyred to his name.
What's that passage where they say that tickling of the ear and stuff like that? I used to until, it wasn't very long ago, but it's because it's so nice to hear that. It's, oh, great, I'm not gonna have to go through all of this.
And that's the whole big issue is that it brought about an attitude with some people is I don't have to worry about this guy. I'm getting raptured out. But when you look at 1 Thessalonians 4, 1 Corinthians 15, where it's talking about this kind of the same thing, they divide those two up and say, well, one's talking about the rapture, one's talking about the second coming, but they both say at his coming, Jesus himself descends. And then the language of we will meet him in the air. And the idea I think I talked about a little bit was that like on Palm Sunday, the king comes to the city, he announces he's coming, everybody, the resurrection happens, we who are alive are caught up, we meet him in the air, and he comes down, and we come down as his army. And then that's the marriage lamb of the supper that you read about in Revelation 19, because it's the saints that come with them. Zechariah 14:5, the Lord my God will come with all his saints. Paul quotes that in First Thessalonians 3:13, or is it second? 3:13, he says, the Lord our God will come with all his saints. And then you read Revelations 19, and the armies of heaven are following after when Jesus returns. And the saints, the ones who are dressed in white, the prayers of saints, but these are, and then of course those saints are mentioned also in Revelation 6. There is the one that are standing before the throne. They're clothed in white linen. And you have those things that go through, and it makes, okay, so we're coming back with them to rule in this earth. That would be the premillennial view. And that's where the wolf will lay down with the lion. He will rule from Jerusalem. That will be fulfilled. And based on Acts 1, when they asked Jesus, will you at this time, after his resurrection, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? And Jesus says, it is not for you to know the times or the seasons that my Father has fixed or set, but you are to go to Jerusalem, Judea, and the uttermost parts of the earth, and preach the gospel.
Mhm.
So, the restoration of all things, it'll happen. You read Isaiah 65 and 66. Here's one of those things that is confusing. Revelations 21 and 22, it talks about the new heavens and the earth. Okay, Isaiah 65 and 66 talks about the new heavens and the earth. But it says, a child will live to be 100, and anybody who dies less than that was not. Wait a minute. If we're talking about living in the new heavens and the earth, and heaven coming down to earth, then there's no people that are going to be dying whatsoever. So, how can it be about the new heaven and earth? It's Isaiah 6, and I believe it's about the millennium. It's a new heaven and earth where Christ comes and reestablishes different things. Yeah, no, there's no time of war. They're turning their swords into plowshares, and he's ruling over the nations. And then it says in Zechariah 14 again at the end of that, if anybody doesn't come to Jerusalem to worship the King, then no rain will fall on them. And you think about rain, okay, that's the way God judges. So judgment, rain, hurricanes. 3 of them hit down there in New Orleans.
Yeah,
That is the center of voodoo with Haiti.
yeah.
All that.
I used to be a Sunday morning Christian,
Yeah, not anymore.
not anymore.
Was that based out of,
What does that mean?
no, based out of New Orleans, or when is that?
Just a Christian on Sunday.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what I did what I wanted,
Oh, okay.
pretty much.
Oh, yeah, okay, I get it now.